Hey everyone, and welcome back to OntarioCryptids. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today marks the 60th episode, so as usual, I will be thanking all of those who have commented regularly on my last 5 videos. Now, just to clarify, by regular I mean that they have commented more than 3 times in my last 5 videos. So for the 60th episode, a special thanks goes out to Bender, Blah Blah, Gene, J Cryptid Trooper, and Sky King. Obviously, I also appreciate those who have subscribed and like and come back each week to watch these episodes. But it takes a little bit more of an effort to add a comment. So thank you so much for commenting on these episodes. So as you know, I'm always looking for great stories to be shared on this channel. So if you have a great story that you would like to share in a safe environment, then forward your encounter stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. Today we have a mixed bag of encounter stories. As you know, on this channel, we share all sorts of cryptids and paranormal encounters from different sources, either from the internet or viewer-submitted stories. Before I share these 3 stories, go grab yourself a beverage and get cozy on the couch or chair and sit back and relax. Okay, so this first story takes place from 1995 to 2000, and it takes place in Shallow Lake, Ontario. Okay, let's get to it. This was on my mind today, and I just had a feeling that I might get some additional insight from the Reddit community. I used to live in southern Ontario near a village called Shallow Lake. I'm from a reservation called Cape Crocker, which is about 30 minutes away. It's also called Neyashingningming, which means point of land surrounded on 3 sides by water. I am First Nation Chippewa of Nawash, Ojibwe, but I was not in touch with my roots at that time in my life. I'm like an empath somewhat. The ability comes and goes now. My gut feelings are usually right, though. Weird shit would happen to me all the time in and around that house. Something was in those woods, and whatever it was not human. I've always had a legitimate fear of the woods near my childhood home, up until I moved out at 18. Something was in those trees. Something looked into my windows and doors from the darkness beyond my sight. The darkness beyond the glass always seemed otherworldly, and in the darkness hid creatures beyond fear and imagination. Every time I was up late, I would always close every door and window on the ground floor. I wanted every conceivable barrier to be closed to my line of sight. I am not normally a fearful person, but something outside in those woods made my blood run cold as ice. I was always terrified that one night I would see something inhumane leering at me, hungry and knowing I was vulnerable. There were times I heard whispers, voices that came from the darkness that could not possibly be there. Whatever was making those voices knew I was listening. Whatever it was could not see me, but I knew it was there. I would hear just enough to know it was a human voice, but I could never make out the words. It wasn't neighbors or the radio or anything. I know those sounds, and this wasn't it. Something was out there on some of those nights. Something stalked those woods behind my house. I felt like there was a presence outside on more than a few occasions, and when I did, I promptly shut up and almost held my breath. I do not know what it was. Almost all my friends or girlfriends had a similar unease or fear that I had, when it came to the windows and looking outside. I'd regularly hear voices coming from outside in the darkness, and I'd peek out, but I could never see anything. I lived in a pretty well-lit street, but it was like the darkness clung to my house like tar. My backyard seemed otherworldly. There was a small deck beneath my bedroom window, and I swear to God, I heard something heavy on the deck like a person, but something about this situation told me that if I peeked my head up, I'm dead. There was also an object in my house I believed to be haunted or cursed or whatever. We had this native bust in the house, and I could feel the evil radiating off this thing. This bust was situated in the hallway right outside my bedroom. I've seen it blink and try to speak to me on several occasions. It terrified me through most of high school. Here's another encounter I had in that same house. I had this experience when I was roughly 8 or maybe 10 years old. I've grown up on horror movies, but I was really well grounded and pretty logical at that age, as I didn't believe in monsters, but was curious about ghosts, etc. I wasn't prone to just making stuff up or believing in the super fantastic. I always believed there was a scientific reason, or at least something I could figure out. This was one of my first real paranormal encounters before things kicked into higher gear later in life. Now, for my story. I'm downstairs watching TV on the couch, and the couch is directly against the wall, tight, like less than 2 inches. It's dark, and I'm watching TV, and the show was bright colors, so there's a good ambient light in the basement. My mom calls me for dinner, and I get up from the couch, and I feel something behind me. I turn my head around, and I couldn't believe what I'm seeing. This white-gloved hand was reaching out from behind the couch for me. Several things ran through my mind at that moment. 1, this can't be real. 2, there's no way for someone to be back there. And 3, F and run. I whip my head back and turn my body, and just as my legs start to move and the momentum carries me forward, I feel something just ever so lightly grab at the ear behind me. I could feel the malicious intent coming off of whatever the hell it was. I knew that if I was grabbed, that it was something I'd never escaped. I ran and never looked back. It took years to watch TV in the basement without all the lights on. There was something evil in that house. Tell me I'm not nuts, because I still remember it clear as day 30 years later. All right. This story takes place on October the 9th of 2020. It takes place in Latta County, Idaho. Nearest town is Bowville. I don't know how to start this off, but here it goes. I'm a 35-year-old male, disabled combat veteran, Iraq, Afghanistan. I've hunted this land for the last 5 years-ish. It was October 9th, and I had a camp set up. My wife was getting off early, and the kids were in school. They were coming to meet me there in the afternoon, and I decided to go and see if I could locate a small pocket of elk and shoot some grouse. I took my 4x4 down a normal trail that I somewhat frequent looking for my last 2 birds. It's an old log road that dead ends. Immediately shot one soon as I got off the 4x4. I got him and figured it's a dead end. I'll walk this and see if I can't find fresh elk signs. Anyways, I walked down maybe half a mile. At the beginning, I kept jumping birds, but always opposite of where I was. I went to the left, and birds jumped 50-60 yards on the other side. I get to a good opening, and I see a few wolf tracks. Big pile of bear shit. Decided to head back to check on my dogs and wait for the family. Walking back was dead quiet, as in awkward quiet. No chirps, no nothing. Not like when I walked down. I got almost halfway back to my campsite and I heard a knock. I know what a woodpecker sounds like, and I'm not a believer. Well, I don't know now. So I thought maybe another hunter was in the timber, so I speak out loud. Oi, tree knocking, huh? Then 2 knocks. I started laughing. Sasquatch, that you? Silence, probably 10 to 15 seconds, then 3 knocks. No special order, just odd timing knocks. I make a joke of it. Have you seen any grouse? I need 1 more. No answer. Few seconds later, knocks, 2 or 3, maybe 4. I joke. Knock twice if you're in New Hampshire. Joke quoting Anchorman movie. No knocks. So I look through my binoculars. No cheap shit. Vertex Viper 12 by 50. I looked for at least a minute. 1 knock while I was glassing. Started to feel really uneasy. Out loud, I said, All right, dude, it's not funny. At least wave a hand so I can see where you are. Again, I'm grouse hunting with my 12-gauge pump, and I don't want to pepper someone when they're hidden and I try to shoot a bird. Now, it's quiet for probably 30 to 45 seconds. I'm glassing, thinking maybe someone put a blind up or something, but nothing. I unload my burst shot and put my 2 buckshots in, followed by a slug. I tell them they're gonna get it and they need to show themselves. Nothing. I was about to walk up in the direction I heard the knocks, and it just didn't feel right. I kept my buckshot in and started to walk past for the next 20 minutes to my 4x4. I got to my ride and still dead quiet. Okay, so my area is Potlatch Land Timber Company. I rode from camp 8.7 miles, Friday midday. This is a dead-end trail. I did not see anyone all day. No tracks, no tire marks, nothing. I know I was the only one out there. I went back to camp, waited for my family, told my wife, and she said, You grew up in these woods. I don't think you're crazy, but I wasn't there. I'm not crazy. I spent probably 7 to 8 months out of the year in this area and never anything like this. And no, I have not returned to this area. Okay, so this last story takes place in 2015, and it takes place in Laramie County, Wyoming, and the closest town is Cheyenne, and it takes place on F.E. Warren Air Force Base, which stands for Francis E. Warren Air Force Base. I have been asked over the past 6 years to retell this story over and over by other airmen, so I feel it necessary to share this with everyone. We were stationed at F.E. Warren, which is a nuclear weapon-oriented base, to say the least. The weapons are always stored off in the middle of bumfudge nowhere, with nothing but flat dirt roads and cornfields for as far as the eye can see. You could watch your dogs run away for 2 days. Fast forward to my fire team talking up this haunted school less than a mile away down the road. I get amped up and persuade the FSC to let us off-site to go to the school. He lets us go since he felt it was necessary to see this place. So we prepare the trip by ensuring all our NVGs, thermals, and our flashlights were highly operational because someone said ghost drains batteries. So we hop in the truck and make our way. By the way, I think the acronym FSC stands for Fire Support Coordinator, and NVG stands for Night Vision Goggles. The first thing we noticed upon approaching this old decrepit school was that something from the deep dark was absolutely screeching at us. so loudly that it almost didn't seem real. It turns out it was an owl in a pipe that was projecting his screech. My fire team partner, Saldivar, points out that owls are a bad omen in his religion. Crap. The only entrance point is the front door that's been busted wide open from all the storms. We enter into the main hallway, long, dark, dank, but definitely not alone. Immediately in front of us is the auditorium. Had a bloody owl shredded to bits in the direct center. The four of us are huddled together when my fire team leader, Curtis, sees something run out from behind the auditorium that we were standing in and ran down the hallway. Like a shadow is what I remember him saying. We walk down to the end of that terrifying hallway and come to the entrance to this notorious basement. Walking through, I continually look over my shoulder because something kept touching my neck softly. My spine is shivering cold, my entire body hot as fire. It made no sense at all. Blood is scribbled poorly on the wall, spelling out the phrase, "Get out." Welp. Okay then. I try to act like this isn't terrifying and tell the boys to head up. We get back up to the top, and lo and behold, there's a giant opened maintenance shaft in the wall right at the entrance to the basement. That wasn't open. We walk back to the entry of the hallway and attempt to turn on the devices we had. The night vision goggles were all at low battery. What? This is where it gets weird. We're in a line formation, basically four dudes crapping their pants in a row, staring off into this dark, horrifying, long hallway. We get the thermals up and basically we make out these two tiny glowing balls that are basically at the end of the hallway, just intertwining with one another. We pass the thermals back and forth, debating whether it's a spirit or dust picking up low lighting, and we concluded that it was not dust, as we could clearly see dust around these glowing balls. The glowing balls stopped moving and stand still all of a sudden. Thermals die. The night vision goggles die, and from the deepest part of the hallway, a ceramic plate flies straight at us and shatters loudly at our feet. We panic, and in the confusion, we separate. I bolt straight through what's left of the door, tearing it off the wall, and one of the other two guys, Saldivar, went to the auditorium. Bad idea. He doesn't come out for a solid 2 minutes of terror. We all link up and absolutely sprint back to our driver, who was patiently waiting in the truck, and we tell him to floor it. We were hyperventilating and can't process the feeling of terror we just encountered. We approach the gate to Gulf 1 and the radio starts acting up, changing dials to a static station and then cranking itself to the max. Now, I feel that I'm a calm person and a rational human being. I falcon punched that radio so hard it broke. We get into the station and I tell the FSC what went down. He notices that our gunner, Saldivar, is acting weird and quiet. We calm down and try to settle for the rest of our long 14-hour shift in the morning. After an hour, we all notice that Saldivar's strangeness is now concerning. He was staring at a blank wall for more than an hour, muttering. We went up to the FSC desk and brought the concern to him. I tell him that I'm not a religious man, but I think we desperately need to pray with him now, and that I think he is going to harm himself. Saldivar is a great, happy dude. We know it was the spirit. We walk out past 2 secured doors, 2 separate rooms, to see Saldivar slowly turning his head from the blank wall, smiles, and says, "I don't want you to pray for me, and I'm not going to harm myself." I pooped my pants right there. This was not my friend, and it's not humanely possible to have heard our conversation. We get an alarm activation at one of our sites, always a rabbit or something, and I'm seriously worried. It's a long drive to the site, so I'm just drilling him with questions about what's going on, mostly met with hostility. While on site, I conduct the exterior walk around, and this is where Saldivar, who's been watching us off-site at the HMVV with the thermals, yells at me to stop walking. That's when he tells me that there was a red figure following over me. Just as a heads up, thermals don't pick up anything other than black and white. Alarms gets cleared and we head back. Saldivar snaps back into his muttering again. This continues until I get so uncomfortable that I pull the Humvee over and get out to talk. As soon as we get face to face and I put my hands on him, he has no recollection of any of the crazy shit he's been spewing off. He shakes it off for the rest of the night and we press. We finish the shift, rack out, and I'm awoken to Saldivar complaining about someone going into his room and trashing it and then beating the crap out of his back. Sure enough, his room is trashed with the 3 other mattresses all over and stuff just wrecked. I lift his shirt up and yep, the guy's got some serious markings on his back. We were just new cops, but we could tell that these were not self-inflicted. I told my flight chief the story that day and told him that if he ever tried to set me up for a trip out at Gulf 1, that I would be going AWOL. By the way, Saldivar is still a good dude and not possessed anymore. The guy had his grandmother rub an egg on his body, and I'm pretty sure we're all good now. Wow, wow, and wow. These were 3 fantastic, scary stories. I don't know how else to describe it. And for once, I have to say that it's left me speechless. These stories stand up for themselves. They're just, those scary stories you want to hear when you're sitting at a campfire while out in the woods somewhere. But in any case, if these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story on this channel. Thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. And please hit that like button on your way out and smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. And most of all, I wish you all would have a fantastic day today, and we will see you all next week.